Hello again, Sam Meredith at Atwater High School. Today we're going to do a little bit of the impossible, or as students think is the impossible. We're going to weld thick to thin. We're going to weld 1/4 inch to 14 gauge using SMAW 7018. Any type of filler rod, this can easily be achieved. It ain't too difficult. We're going to be running our 7018 in the 1G. We're going to run it at about 130 to 135 amps. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place both pieces of metal flat on the table, and they're going to be upside down. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this Electrode 7018, and it's going to be a butt weld, so the edges are going to be butted up. We're going to tack one end together. Okay, and if you want to tack both sides, that's fine too. It works. So we're going to get down to it here. Sometimes I'll take my glove and I'll just kind of hold them together to get the first tack going. I'm going to hit the other side too. Nice and flat. Go on this side here. Now when I did those tacks, I was hitting on the thick piece and I let it roll over onto the thin. And what that does is it gives us a nice clean fit up with no gaps. We have no gaps on that thick to thin. That's going to be the secret to being successful for thick to thin. Alright, now we're going to run it. First, how this is going to look without striking the arc. So I'm going to take the rod, I'm going to strike on the table, I'm going to bring it up on the thick piece, and I'm going to run a nice straight line about 1 rod diameter away from the joint. And what that's going to do is, as I'm pulling this rod nice and easy, my eye is going to be bouncing back to the toe edge where the bead is going to roll over onto the thin piece, while the arc is concentrated on the thicker piece. If you get too close to the thin piece, or that arc hits the thin piece, it's going to blow a hole. So you're letting the fill from the puddle roll on to the thin piece all the way to the end. And what I like to do is when I get to the end, I'll just kind of finish the bead off and I'll wrap away from the weld, and that'll tie that edge in. Here we go. Just pulling that rod nice and smooth. We're going to watch the puddle roll right onto that thin piece. And you can see that puddle just rolling right up to it and melting into it. Keep a nice short arc gap. We're going to shorten it real close at the end, which will cool it down. And wrap away. That was that 135. It's a little on the hot side. We're going to flip it over and you'll see some melt through. Believe it or not, that's not metal. A lot of that is the flux. As that glow begins to go away, we'll just kind of chip a little bit. You can see that edge tied in beautifully, so you start on the thick piece, let it roll to the edge, and then you start your forward travel speed. And look at this, this is going to just come right off, hopefully in one piece. Over there. If I let it cool, if I have a little patience, it'll cool. It'll come right up. And you can see it starting to crack right there on the toe. Sometimes you can just take your
hammer and drag it. Okay, I'm always watching my eye on this edge here on the thin piece because I don't want to get too close. You get too close, you'll blow a hole. I got pretty close on a couple sides here. Probably if I were to do this again, I'd cheat a little bit further away, but it's a good tie-in, and I guarantee the sheet metal will break off before the weld does. And that's your thick to thin 7018 1G butt weld.